Deleted Peppa Pig episode Time Loop, which was never shown on TV. The episode begins normally. Peppa wakes up in her bed. She stretches, smiles, and says, "What a lovely day." She goes downstairs. Mummy Pig is making pancakes. George is laughing. All seems normal until Peppa says the exact same thing again. "What a lovely day." Then the episode restarts. Same scene, same lines. But this time everyone's smiles are slightly too wide. Their movements are stiff. Sound is muffled. It restarts again, and again, and again. Each time things are just a little more wrong. The sky turns gray, then black. The house gets darker. Faces become blank. George stops laughing. Mummy Pig stares at the camera. Daddy Pig doesn't appear at all. By the sixth loop, Peppa begins to realize something is wrong. She whispers, "Why am I still here?" Her voice is distant, echoed. No one responds. Suddenly, she looks directly into the screen. "Are you watching this again?" The scene restarts, but this time there's no dialogue, just static and low droning sounds. All the characters are still, motionless. The only thing that moves is the clock on the wall, spinning rapidly, then reversing. The final loop plays. Peppa is in bed again. She doesn't move. Her eyes are open. She whispers one last time. There's no ending, only watching. The screen glitches and freezes on her face, then cuts to black. Deleted Peppa Pig episode, Daddy Pig's Smile, which was never showed on TV. It starts like a normal day. Daddy Pig is outside fixing something in the garden. He turns to Peppa and smiles, but his smile is a little too wide. Peppa laughs, awkwardly, but the sound fades quickly. Later, during dinner, Daddy Pig sits at the head of the table. His mouth has stretched wider. His smile never disappears, even as he eats. He doesn't blink, doesn't speak, just chews and smiles. Mummy Pig glances nervously and says, "Daddy's just in a good mood," but her voice trembles. That night, Peppa wakes up to get a drink. Passing the living room, she sees a light on. Daddy Pig is sitting in the dark, the same wide grin. His mouth is huge now, almost unnatural. He whispers, "I'm happy. We all should be happy." Then he starts laughing, quietly. The laughter never stops. Peppa runs upstairs. As she passes the hallway, she notices the family portraits. All of them have changed. Daddy Pig's face now has that same monstrous smile in every single photo, even the old ones. In the final scene, Peppa wakes up in her bed. The room is dark. Someone is standing in the corner. Step by step, he moves closer. It's Daddy Pig. His mouth reaches nearly to his ears now. He leans down toward her and, in a glitchy, distorted voice, says, "Smile, Peppa. Forever." Peppa Pig deleted episode Peppa's Shadow, which was never showed on TV. The episode starts with a strange filter over the screen, slightly tinted blue. Peppa is outside, jumping in muddy puddles, but her shadow moves just a little differently. It lags, it twitches, it sometimes disappears entirely. As Peppa walks around the house, her shadow grows longer and darker. It starts to separate from her, following from the ceiling, crawling across walls. She notices. She tries to tell Mummy Pig, "My shadow is broken." But Mummy just blinks slowly and replies, "Then you should stay still, dear." From that point on, Peppa stops moving. Completely. Even when spoken to, she doesn't respond. The only thing moving is the shadow. More alive now, gliding unnaturally. George approaches her and whispers, "That's not your shadow anymore." Suddenly, the house dims. Windows darken. Every mirror in the home is shattered. The shadow begins taking shape: limbs, head, long mouth. It smiles, but not like Peppa. Too wide, too sharp. In the final scene, Daddy Pig walks into the room. Peppa is standing in the middle, still motionless. But there are two shadows behind her. One is normal. The other raises its hand and waves at the screen. Deleted Peppa Pig episode. Peppa is silent, which was never showed on TV. The episode opens in total silence. Peppa is sitting on the floor of her room. The camera pans slowly. She doesn't move, doesn't blink. She just stares at nothing. Mummy Pig walks in cheerfully and says, "Breakfast is ready, Peppa." But her voice plays backward, distorted, wrong. Peppa doesn't respond. Cut to the dining table. The whole family is eating, but no one speaks. The only sound is Daddy Pig chewing, unnaturally loud, wet, and uncomfortable. Everyone is smiling, except Peppa. Her mouth doesn't move. She just sits there, motionless, with empty eyes. In another scene, George offers her a toy. Peppa suddenly turns to face the screen. Fast. The background starts pulsing. The music becomes fragmented, almost digital noise. Scene after scene, Peppa appears in different places, at school, in the garden, in the bath, but never speaks. She always stares at the viewer. Eventually, Mummy Pig is shown whispering to herself in the hallway.
"If she speaks again, it will all start over."
Then she begins to cry. In the final shot, the camera slowly zooms in on Peppa's face. Her eyes begin to bleed. She opens her mouth, but instead of speaking, she unleashes a horrific, distorted scream that drowns out everything. Cut to black. Then one final whisper.
"Now you are silent."
Deleted Peppa Pig episode. The Reflection, which was never showed on TV. It began like any ordinary day. Peppa was in the bathroom, brushing her teeth. The usual cheerful music played, but it felt slower, off-key. She looked up, and her reflection didn't smile. It just stared. Its eyes were darker, expression blank, motionless. Throughout the day, things got stranger. When Peppa moved, her reflection lagged behind. Sometimes it moved before she did. At dinner, she glanced toward the window, and there it was again. Her reflection just standing there, staring at her from the glass. She wasn't even near it. She told Mummy Pig, but Mummy didn't look up from her plate. She simply muttered,
"Don't look too long, Peppa. You might see too much."
That night, Peppa heard whispers coming from the bathroom, faint, garbled, like they were coming from behind the mirror. She crept inside and froze. Her reflection was grinning, an unnaturally wide, stretched smile. Then it moved, fast, slamming its hooves against the glass. Cracks started to form. The screen glitched. For a moment, everything went black. When the picture returned, it was morning. Mummy Pig walked into the bathroom. Peppa stood by the sink, brushing her teeth like nothing ever happened. But just before the scene faded out, the mirror showed two Peppias. One brushing her teeth, and the other behind the cracks, still grinning. The episode ended with no credits. Just a silent black screen. Deleted Peppa Pig episode Grey George. This episode was never been showed on TV. The episode starts like any other. Peppa and George are playing outside, but suddenly Peppa notices that George is starting to pale. She asks if he's okay, but he just silently smiles. Minute by minute, George turns grayer, and his eyes grow emptier. Peppa tries to tell Mummy and Daddy Pig, but they don't see anything strange. George begins acting more and more bizarre, making eerie noises, and his teeth become long and sharp. At night, Peppa starts having nightmares, George standing by her bed with empty eyes. When she wakes up, he's standing in her doorway, just staring. In the morning, she tells her parents, but they keep smiling and say,
Don't worry, George is just tired.
One evening, the lights in the house begin to flicker. Peppa walks down the hallway and notices all the family photos are turned face down. Strange, raspy crying comes from the basement. She goes down and finds an old VHS tape with no label. She plays it and sees George standing in the middle of a forest. Behind him, shadows move. Peppa screams, but the TV shuts off by itself. In the final scene, Peppa wakes up, alone, in a completely empty house. No George, no parents, just silence. She walks outside and the sky is dark and red. George stands in the yard, gray, eyeless. He reaches out to her and says in a distorted voice,
You'll stay here forever.
Peppa tries to run, but the ground crumbles beneath her and she falls into black nothingness. The camera zooms in on her face, and in the last second, she opens her eyes, filled with fear, and whispers, It wasn't a dream.